Name the D&D character CSI by name. There's all kinds of fucking. I want to just go through this thing and start typing while I'm listening to shit. Start typing what people say, various one-liners, things like that, and put together. Just sort of like build a script out of just shit people say in here, you know?
Yeah.
I can imagine that coming together in a number of different ways. Like in
She
terms
said
of,
she was an INTJ. She could have been. She's a psychology major.
did you know about typology and stuff like that?
She didn't know about the function model, which is
It's
like
not
the big
considered.
part of it.
It's weird. They don't really teach it much in like college level psychology classes.
Yeah, like they go over Myers-Briggs, but they don't go over the function model. That blows my mind.
It's odd, and it's because it's not considered um,
It's
scientifically
pseudoscience.
validated or something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what they do consider validated, they've not validated any useful information at all. They've just validated the fact that basically some people are more neurotic than others. That if you have neurotic as a scale, you can show that some people are more neurotic
Yeah.
than others.
Yeah. Stuff like that, and disorders, like ADD, and things like that. Um, I mean, I don't know how they base those in fact, or consider those to be facts.
I mean, they're disorders in the sense that they're groupings of related symptoms that seem to correlate in people to cause a problem. But that's it's as soon as you get away from that literal definition of disorder, people stop talking about it as though it were that, and they start talking about it as though it were a thing you could get or have, rather than a description of a galaxy of behavioral clusters or something.
Yeah. Um, it seems like psychology, that department at school at least, is, I mean, I'm sure it's more broad than that. It's filled with TEFI people, or like that's like the dominant thought in it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of NFPs in the field. When we had a marriage counselor, my wife and I, ex-wife, he was almost certainly an ENFP. He was very good at his job in terms of connecting with each of us and managing our respective
Yeah,
emotional
well, I'm not talking
engagements.
about that necessarily because that's a different category, I think. Because those are the people that are taking the studies from, like, the, I don't know, scholars or something like that, like the psychologists that study the disorders and like name the disorders and determine what is included in those and what they mean, and um, everything like that, and then they implement them in counseling, for instance, or therapy, or things like that. Like they're the ones that are implementing the study.
But it's more like they're implementing models or approaches of therapy because there's different approaches, like, and there's different sort of frameworks of what are we doing here when we're sitting down and talking to people about their problems.
Yeah,
There's different approaches from Freudian, which I'm sure nobody uses anymore, all the way up through life coaches, which my ex-wife uses successfully.
life coaches are, I mean, the ones that I've encountered are have like Buddhist thought or like Eastern philosophy stuff going on.
Well, I had a weird experience the other day talking to a German woman. I felt rather life coachy in the sense that I felt moved to try to be helpful and kind because she seemed to be not in the best of places, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was interesting. It was an interesting experience being that much other directed during the course of that conversation. Being caring and concerned. I not often that because a lot of people aren't displaying to me in ways that I pick up on quickly enough vulnerability. They're expressing their vulnerability through displays of defenses or offense, which caused me immediately go to war mode. Whereas if they display vulnerability, I go into caring mode. But
Vulnerability, like, is that like detection of FI or something? Like, what do you mean? Vulnerability. I mean, everybody can be vulnerable, but
well, I mean, people come into conversation displaying varying degrees of self-concept. Some people come in very guarded or bristly. They're concerned a lot about being judged. And when that happens, depending on how they play that, if it's displayed like an INTJ displays it, then I usually do my best to make them feel safe and comfortable. I understand it for what it is. But if it displays like an ENTP displays it or an NTP displays it, then I'm much less concerned about the other person's feelings. For example, I was quite harsh with Ash today, um, without really being aware this is what I was doing until I was partway into doing it or a fair amount into doing it. He brought in this sort of theory thing, but we brought it in at a weird time. So in the middle of talking about this other thing that was conflicting directly with it. And he didn't say what I was saying. Okay, now let's talk about this theory. He just sort of like related it to this thing here. And then now all of a sudden we're battling. I'm here. Well, what do you mean by that? And he's
yeah,
trying to damnedest to avoid all my questions. So I was battering him about quite a bit. By the time it was over, I thought, oh shit. He
Oh,
probably
but he also had a passive aggressive thing going there because someone else said something and he was like, shut up, it's Eric I'm arguing with.
well, I mean, that's active aggressive, but he was passive aggressive with me plenty. I mean, that's what the whole avoidance thing was. He wasn't doing, there's fair avoidance. There's good avoidance that's like okay, and that's not what he was doing. It's what I was doing. That's good avoidance. What I was doing when he finally did ask me a question, and I answered it and gave him a specific answer. He tried to change my answer into something else. I wouldn't let it. And if he wanted to change it, he'd say, okay, well, you said this. Now, does this mean this or this? And he's got to walk it down, like anybody else.
yeah.
I don't think that one was too bad because he didn't really present anything. Well, not a lot at least.
The reason I felt a little bit bad was because I didn't get that I was trashing his theory until, it's like I didn't get that it was like, oh, I'm here with my pet theory thing. And I realized later it was kind of like that, but I was in the middle of something else that was directly conflicting with it, and I didn't process the F end of it until later. So I feel kind of bad about it for that. Just because the lack of awareness suggests, and the guilt suggests, I'm probably callous.
Yeah, but the way he presented his little pet theory wasn't very impressive.
Well, that's true, Susie. That's true. I forgot. You're all about kindness and emotions, but you're not okay with sloppy work. You're just not okay with it. And you know what? That was pretty crappy, so fuck that guy.
Something like that. It can't be so rigid when it's crap.
I agree. There wasn't a whole hell of a lot to it. He had some symbols, but he's young is the other thing, I think. I didn't even know it was him until I didn't know who I was talking to even. But that's what happens when you when you that's why I got the whole honest, upfront, straightforward narrative, because it's consistent with that behavioral pattern. Hi, NMH. No, NHM. If you were a state, you'd be called New Hampshire, Mexico.
You talking to me?
Yep.
What'd you say?
I said, if you were a state, you'd be New Hampshire, Mexico. Because that's your initials, not host Mark.
The history of that region would probably be pretty interesting.
You mean if New Hampshire and New Mexico were one state connected by a very thin sliver of land?
Well, how'd the other land get added to it?
I mean, I think originally New Hampshire, Mexico occupied most of the country. And then gradually other states encroached on it. But they left these two parts like way over here, way over here. And a thin strip of it's only like 50 feet wide. And if you live, some people live in the strip. You're known to live in the strip. And the state doesn't really take very good care of the roads there. It's kind of a mess, really.
I mean, I would assume they'd put some policeman and tax the heck out of people that cross over.
Hey, welcome to New Hampshire, Mexico. For the next 50 feet, you will be taxed heavily. They're probably you cross the state line into New Hampshire, Mexico, somewhere along the strip, and it would be nothing but fireworks, strip clubs, gambling, cigarettes, all the shit that you can't buy in the local states. Oh yeah, that's legal here in New Hampshire, Mexico, just in the strip though. Not legal in the main parts, just here in the strip.
If the public crosses over, God forbid. Do some hard time.
Well, I'm going to propose a constitutional amendment to connect New Hampshire and New Mexico with a strip of land. They're calling it New Hampshire, Mexico, and to give it, the combined electoral college votes of the two states. Give them 3 senators, okay? This state gets 3 senators. The only state that gets 3. But one of them has to have a serious physical handicap. Okay, so one of them has to be handicapped. We're gonna make them a dream team. One of them has to be a straight white middle-aged conservative male, and one of them has to be a duck. But the duck has full voting.
How does the duck vote? How does he vote in Congress?
Well, they just put it down. They put his little web feet on the inking pad thing. They get it all inked up, and they put like a yes over here and a no over here. Go sign your name to one of these votes, Senator Duck. And the duck walks over and does it.
sounds like to be some corruption there. I'm sure they put some food on one side or something like that.